share his knowledge. Let us welcome Dr. Ayers as our guest speaker for this evening.
Good evening. I'd like to thank first Mrs. Baird and Roxanne and Darren for their words earlier and for being invited to this event. It's an honor and a privilege. When I heard you're doing the environment, a lot of things came to mind, so I tried to front load as many things I could, and it's obviously a topic I'm passionate about. I'd like to share some of the things that I thought were the most important in the 5 to 10 minute window I have. So, the environment. It's something that by definition we're all a part of. In this day and age, it's something that we must think about as well. Western civilization has, for centuries, strived to ascend beyond the mercy of the elements. And here we are. Buildings are climate controlled. We have mastered internal combustion engines and unlocked the power of the atom. You can walk into any grocery store and find an abundance of food trucked in daily. Because of refrigeration and ethylene control, you can have that food stay fresher longer. You want strawberries when it's out of season in November? That's fine. It's all right. It's all good. It's there. So we live in an age of technology where processors are 60 times faster than they were just 10 years ago. And a world of information is at our fingertips. To put this forward march in perspective, I'll invoke one of our founding fathers for comparison. Thomas Jefferson was a noted bibliophile who collected almost 10,000 books in his lifetime. That's about 420 megabytes of information available to an avid seeker of knowledge 200 years ago. Today, with the help of almost 6 billion smartphones, we are inundated with over 34 gigabytes of information each and every day. Google alone has digitized over 5 million books. The reality is that you live more comfortably and have millions of times more information readily available than previous generations. So what is the cost of this way of life? The short answer is energy, water, and pollution. Lots of it. So let's talk about energy for a moment. In order to power this fast-paced lifestyle, we've become addicted to fossil fuels. According to the National Academy of Sciences, 81% of the energy production in the U.S. comes from oil, coal, or natural gas. Depending on how it's calculated, the experts agree that at current production levels, we have between 50 and 250 years of oil reserves left on Earth at current production levels. The implications of this are, of course, staggering. And as soon as your lifetimes, people could be forced to make drastic changes. Civilization, as we know it, will end unless major transitions are made towards alternative energy sources. And I don't mean to be too dark when I say that, but it is, and that's why you're here, and that's why you picked the environment. That's why young people like you are being aware and cognizant of this and trying to solve these problems. And like most changes, it's easier to happen incrementally rather than all at once. Fossil fuels, aside from being finite and unsustainable, have other harmful side effects. The release of carbon dioxide and other noxious chemicals pollutes the environment and contributes to global warming, as Theron said earlier. The goal of climate scientists at this point is not to stop global warming altogether, which is impossible at this point. Instead, the goal is to limit atmospheric warming to 2 degrees Celsius, a milestone which would mark global catastrophe. Carbon dioxide is not the only greenhouse gas we need to worry about. Methane is another contributor. The beef and cattle industry is a major source of methane production. The average cow belches 500 liters of methane gas per day. It's just the way ruminants use bacteria in their gut to digest the food they eat. And meat itself is unsustainable due to how land, water, and energy intensive it is to raise cattle, and the large amounts of pollution that these operations produce. Many of these side effects are less obvious and compound to become problems later on. Warmer ocean temperatures have resulted in longer hurricane season with higher frequency of intense storms than seen before. Most recently, Hurricane Florence in the Carolinas demonstrated other problems with the reliance on fossil fuels and meat production. A lot of these floodwaters were in the heart of coal and cattle country. Coal ash from coal-fired plants and manure from farms got washed up and spread around, creating an environmental hazard. Coal ash is the byproduct from the combustion of coal. It can contain toxic residuals such as mercury, arsenic, and chromium. You can imagine some of the problems such a toxic concoction could cause if it spread all over towns, in the soil, and in the water supply. This leads me into water. Water has become a very important resource, especially as our growing population increases the demand for water. So important that, in fact, there is a huge infrastructure upgrade underway in California to meet this demand. California Water Fix and Eco Restore is a $15 billion project approved by Jerry Brown to build two 40-foot tunnels, 150 feet underground, to carry water from our delta to the Clifton forebay, 30 miles away, where it can be pumped to Southern California. Digging up the delta and draining its water will have such a negative impact on the environment that they included an additional $8 billion to restore the habitat and fix the mess left behind. California has just ended a severe drought. If you remember back to the summer of 2016, our reservoirs were running dry, some were as low as 10% capacity. It was only a miracle March and part of the wettest winter in 122 years that brought us out of the drought. But with more people putting more stress on the infrastructure, water shortages are likely to happen again. So what can we do? I spent time as a water conservation specialist for the city of Modesto. There I researched ways people can save water. That's a really great way to make sure everyone has enough water. Just use less. You don't have to build big old dams, and you don't have to do tunnels if you just use less water per person. And there's lots of ways to do that. Some of them might sound silly, but every little bit makes a difference. Like for instance, time your showers. Try to keep them under 5 minutes. Only turn on the water when you're rinsing off. Put a brick in your toilet tank. Zero-scape your yard. Those of you who are not familiar with zero-scaping, that just means put rocks and drought-resistant, drought-tolerant plants in your yard, like cactus and stuff. You don't need to water it every day like a lawn. Use old water to water plants instead of tap water. Tap water is treated, and a lot of energy and resources go into it before it comes out the tap. So if you're cooking pasta and you have leftover water, use that to water the plants, or your dog's food and water bowl can water the plants. You don't have to always use tap water because that's drinkable water versus other sources of water. Wash your car on the grass instead of the driveway. Use less dairy, beef, almonds, and other foods that use lots of water. So our salvation for many climate issues may come from technology, but others from nature. One method for reducing carbon is called carbon sequestration. So imagine millions of boxes filled with fabric that absorb carbon dioxide, which is then concentrated and pumped deep underground where it cannot participate in climate change. This, however, would be a very elaborate and expensive operation. It just so happens that nature has the best carbon capturing device that we could hope to produce. What do you think that device is?
Trees.
Trees! Absolutely. But the more carbon released in the atmosphere means more trees are needed to combat climate change. So reforestation is only useful if we decide to either cover all the possible land we have with trees, or decide to reduce carbon emissions. As for energy production, there are many routes that have their own ups and downs. Solar, wind, and hydroelectric energy are examples. But no one route will take care of all of our energy needs. The best solar panels on the market are only 22% efficient. Wind generators have a tendency to kill birds. Dams can disrupt ecosystems and are not applicable in all areas, such as you can't build a dam on a fault line, or you can't build a dam where there's no rivers. Nuclear energy emits no greenhouse gases, but produces used fuel waste that must be stored for thousands of years due to its toxicity. And there aren't nearly enough nuclear power plants to cover our energy needs, mostly due to the lengthy process it takes to approve and build new nuclear power plants. Some things still have to use oil, by the way. Tires are made of oil. There's no other way we know how to make them. Most plastics must be made from oil. Heavy equipment, such as jets and tractors, need petroleum-based fuels. Oil should be used for those applications, but not anywhere in which alternatives are available. So put solar panels on those houses and sedentary structures, on towers, on school buildings, office buildings, places like that. Cars can't really use solar because you've got to be able to drive your car at night and whatnot. It's just not feasible. So invest in hybrid and electric vehicles. Realigning our energy budget in such a way would extend our fossil fuel reserves for centuries. This leads me to what I think will be the hope for mankind, nuclear fusion. ITER is a large magnetic fusion device being developed in France with the help of 35 nations. The goal of this project is to create energy by fusing hydrogen and helium, the same process that goes on in the sun. This process could turn water into unlimited clean energy. ITER plans to be operational by 2035, so fusion may be ready when society needs it by the middle of this century. So the mantra goes, think global, act local. So our local area is Stockton, right? Let's look at Stockton, our hometown. Stockton is on paper a town wealthy in resources and blessed in its geography. We stand upon the best farmland in the world, courtesy of thousands of years of alluvial deposits from the Delta. The port of Stockton is a major deep-water seaport, the furthest inland port in California, perfectly situated for linking commerce between the Central Valley and the rest of the world. And of course, we have a great higher education opportunities available here with Delta College and University of the Pacific. But in reality, we don't always see Stockton shine and use these resources to the best of their abilities. Look around you, and you may see trash on the ground, on the streets of Stockton. I know maybe on your way here you saw some trash on the ground, or you've seen someone throw trash out of their car. We've all seen it. Every summer it seems like the Delta gets choked up with algae and water hyacinths, and we notice it because it interrupts our visit to the movie theater. It smells over there, but there's actually a lot more going on than just a bad smell. Water stagnation and salination from water being taken out of the Delta, as well as new developments and pollution, are the main culprits. These invasive species need to be removed by equipment that uses more fuel or sprayed with chemicals to kill it, which causes more pollution. So it's just a cycle that continues unless we find alternative methods. So what can you do to be a steward for the environment in your own town? Well, educate and create a culture that respects the environment. Joining NHS is a big part of that. You're here, you have a goal for this year, you're going to do service learning. And part of that service could be the Delta cleanup. If you haven't heard of it, in November they do a Delta cleanup. If that cow problem, I know we have cows north of Stockton, if that cow problem caught your attention, you might look up the Clean Cow Project and try to connect with farmers that do dairy and that method. So do not litter, that's a big one. I hate seeing cigarette butts on the ground, it's just so awful. Clean up litter if you see it. Express your disappointment to friends and family if you see them litter. Only dispose of oil and other chemicals properly so that they don't drain into the Delta. Choose to eat and live more sustainably. Grow your own food. Collect rainwater. Use that rainwater to water your plants and gardens. Eliminate your single-use plastic. What was the significance of the year 2050? More plastic than fish in the ocean, right? So those plastic straws, plastic cups, anything you use once and throw away, that's all just collecting in the ocean, or it's being broken into deep sea sediments, and eventually it's going to turn up somewhere. Stick with your phone longer before getting an upgrade. Ride your bike instead of driving if you can. Eat less meat and find alternative sources of protein. One day it might be considered normal to eat cricket burgers because beef just won't be a viable option. Compost. Instead of buying petroleum-based fertilizers, you can compost those compostable wastes in your regular garbage. On a basal level, just understand that you're part of the environment and cannot escape it. If it flourishes, you flourish. If you protect it, you're protecting your children's future. I use the word steward because you don't own the environment. You just take care of it and pass it on. So please leave something good to pass on. Thank you very much.